I think we are live. Yes, we are live. Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second podcast in this series of Unblocking Chain, wherein we talk to people who are in Web3, their experiences, their journey, and also a hell lot of guidance from these people. So today we have Edda with us. So Edda, first of all, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited and happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Atisha, for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited. First time live on YouTube.
Yeah. So, those of you who don't know about Edda, she is a developer advocate at the Helium Foundation, and rest I will let Edda introduce herself to the audience.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Edda, and I am working on the developer relations community side at the Helium Foundation. I started 2.5 months ago in the Web3 space. I was kind of like more a Web3 enthusiast, researching, kind of creating my own content around it, and now moved full time to the space. And before that, I have a background as a software engineer and been in technical sales for the past 2.5 years. And yes, most recently just got into the Web3 rabbit hole.
Yeah. So that was a brief about Edda's journey so far. So let's delve deep into your journey into this Web3 space. So the very first question that is coming to my mind right now is, what really made you choose Web3 as your career? Since you said that you were a technical specialist with a company prior to this, so there would be some driving force that were forcing you to get into Web3. What was that, and what made you really shift to a domain of Web3?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a topic which I really like to talk about because I didn't enter Web3 because I saw it like rising or I saw that it was like the new wave. Um, I was basically working in technical sales, and I actually did really like my job. I was on a networking world, so I was working at Cisco as technical specialist. And then I think last year around April time, it was the time when all these cryptocurrencies were like going up, like all the prices were just increasing. And I was here in Istanbul. And yeah, like I had a lot of time. I was seeing all these prices go up. I'm like, maybe I should just invest a bit. I had always stayed away from all the sorts of cryptocurrencies, although I have like a computer engineering background. I just never really got into it. But yeah, I decided to like buy a few tokens, coins, and it kind of was my first approach into crypto space. And then I got in, and all the prices started to go down. So I think I bought at like the worst possible time when everything was top in end of April or beginning of Mayish. But I got interested. I was like, okay, like this crypto thing isn't working. Let me try this NFT thing because then like everyone was making like a lot of money of NFTs. And I said, maybe let me just try and get a few NFTs, kind of see what that is all about. Um, like all my wish was maybe to like make a bit of money to go on holidays. I didn't really see this as like a long-term thing. It was just like a small interest of mine. And then yeah, I decided to like I figured out how to set up my own wallets, heard about OpenSea, kind of went in there, like bought my first NFT. And that for me was a wake up call. It was like, oh, like this is actually very interesting. The reason for that is because, first of all, after like the first onboarding stage, like after figuring out what like a crypto wallet is, what OpenSea is, it was very easy to buy the NFT. It was very weird because actually I felt like I owned something on the internet for the first time ever. Because you usually buy these in-game assets, but they're actually not yours. So for the first time, this actually felt like I was owning something. And the third thing is it was super transparent. And especially coming from the corporate world, like I didn't expect this much transparency. It was so weird that I could see like the transaction go through. I could see like which stage my, Ethereum transaction was, etc. So that was really interesting. And then I said, okay, like this is, more than something I could just like go on holidays on. Let me actually see, like, let me actually understand, research what this crypto space is all about. And that's when I really started to dive deep. I would like kind of start to watch podcasts, just read about it a bit, not really get into the developer side. but it just started out as a hobby. And then what really kind of made me push towards the developer side was I then got connected to like a couple of people on Twitter, and through there I found out about Nader as well. And I found his channel, and I kind of started to follow his tutorials. They were really easy to follow along. I really like, they were my first entry to the crypto space to actually start building. And then I saw like he was starting a developer DAO. And I said, okay, I missed this cryptocurrency thing. I missed this NFT thing. I'm not going to miss this DAO thing. And it was from Nader, who I was like following. I was really getting so much value out of his content that I just thought I needed to get in. Yeah, so like I got my first, I got the NFT to enter developer DAO. It was like the very early days. And through there, I also saw like a lot of people entering and developers being like, where do I even start? Like, okay, there's this thing about cryptocurrencies, NFTs, but how does the tech stack look? How do you actually code something? I had no idea. So I decided to, okay, like I'm going to start learning this, and I'm going to start writing about what I'm learning, because it's just so hard to understand for myself. I didn't really think anyone would read it at that point. I was just like, it's kind of like an online recording of what I'm doing. And I started the blog, and yeah, I've just been writing about my Web3 adventures. And then at one point, it was like I was super, super interested, super into it. And yeah, it just made very much sense to switch over.
Yeah, it was really good to know that it was something that you started maybe as a hobby, or maybe as something to explore a new thing, like rather than just doing what you were doing. And it turned out to be so good that you got full time into it. You took the leap of faith that you, you left a full time job and then got into Web3. That's really interesting. Uh, so Eda, like, what I want to know is, since you told us that you started reading stuff, you started watching videos, and also started writing your own blogs, then what I wanted to know is, how did you really got your first opportunity into this space? Because those who are into this space, they also want to know that how can they grab an opportunity.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So, as you mentioned, I wasn't really looking to switch jobs. I was actually pretty happy in the networking space. I was kind of touching the cloud space as well. But then when I kind of started to get more into the Web3 space and developing my own tools, they were very interesting because they were completely different than what I was used to. It just felt very interesting learning about those technologies. I kept following the tutorials, and basically, like, especially trying to build stuff myself, it made a huge difference, and writing about it. I started to get like more people interested in my content. I think it was because a lot of the crypto content was they had like a lot of crypto words, a lot of like
Yeah.
high knowledge content. So you had to be in the space to actually understand them. I was coming in like a very beginner, just being like, okay, what even is blockchain? Like I was starting from scratch and trying to share what I'm learning. So I think it was, yeah, I think it kind of resonated with a lot of people. So I got more interested in writing that. And I actually started the 100 Days of Web3 challenge as well. It
Okay.
was like a good way to consistently create content because, yeah, I think I have the same model that unless there's like a goal, it just doesn't keep going. Like 100 days
Right.
feels like a long time, but once you start scratching it off a paper, it doesn't feel that long. Um, but yeah, so I was creating more content. I got a lot of more people coming in, like a lot of people reaching out, asking questions on how to get started. I tried to gear my content towards, those people as well, to kind of share more about how I started, where I'm going. And
Mhm.
then I started to get like a couple of opportunities from Twitter.
Okay.
It's very interesting because I would never expect to get a job offer or like job opportunities from Twitter. I wasn't even on Twitter before like getting into the Web3 space. But everything really happened on Twitter for me. I got people reaching out, hey, I read your article. This is very cool. Are you looking for a job? And this kind of happened around December time.
Okay.
But at the same time, I read a lot of blogs or like hear a lot of talks about people being like, oh, like I just left my job and now moved full time to the Web3 space. That really wasn't the case for me. I did take like a long time. Like I did, evaluate, like I did try to understand, like, should I make a career switch to this new world, which I have no idea of. I just entered like 6, 7 months ago. So I think like December was mostly like going back and forth with different places, kind of just yeah, kind of just trying to understand, should I make the switch? And then I think what really made the click for me was the job from Helium Foundation, because Helium was a project which I was already interested in, part of the community. It's also from the networking world, which I think we could talk a bit more as we go forward, but just to kind of touch on the opportunity parts. Yeah, it was like the right time, and I had kind of said to myself, okay, this is just endlessly interesting. I really need to transition here. But I did take like 1 month to actually decide. And for me, everything came from Twitter, like being very public about my learnings. Uh, I got like lots of opportunities from over there, which is very weird when I think about my corporate journey.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of having an online presence, because there are a lot of opportunities that you even don't know about that exist. And when you show your presence online, and showing your presence is uh, simply meaning sharing what you are learning, and that's how you can build your online presence and get a lot of opportunities. So I think that's the a major thing that worked for you, having an online presence, and then automatically the opportunities came walking towards you. And then I think that was the point that you decided, okay, this is something I can explore, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. Like I never, to be honest, like I never even knew about like developer relations or developer advocates roles and like how much they affected me. And just being here, like sharing my learnings, it was really like, oh, okay, like there's actually something which makes sense to create content to write on Twitter. It's not just, yeah, I never really thought that it would be important or something I would be doing until getting in and actually like seeing these people affect me so much, and me like getting those nice comments. It was just like a game changer. So I always try to iterate, like it's okay, you can make mistakes, just like build and ship something, like just share whatever you're learning, share what you're doing, write about it. You don't have to write. I prefer like written content, but videos, any kind of, you can like even just build projects, put them on your public GitHub, and just share those on the social media platform of your choice. That just makes
Yeah.
a huge difference.
Yeah, so we have a question. I think that's a very relevant question based on your journey. So there's a question that what all parameters did you consider in that 1 month period when you were deciding whether you should go for the Web3 job or not?
Yeah, that's a super good question. And I have to say, yeah, it was. I actually wrote a blog post about like why I'm moving to Web3, or like I moved to Web3 kind of blog post. But basically, during that 1 month, I tried to understand, this was a completely new field for me. I had no exact, like, I knew people on Twitter, but I wasn't even that much into Twitter at that time as well. Um, so I was just trying to understand, is this a role which I could be effect, like is this something which I can do in the role? Is it a community which I'm already a part of? Like, do I already know what they're doing, what I can join?
Yeah.
And I think thirdly was, um, I was just endlessly interested in the Web3 space, and my own job wasn't as exciting to me as before. Like I didn't have the same motivation over there, and going back and forth, yeah, like I guess the best way to describe it is it felt less like a risk and more like an opportunity.
Right.
So I kind of said, okay, now's the time.
Yeah, and what I also feel is we are at that point, like at that stage of life when we do have time to take opportunities of these sort, and we have the time to take
Yeah.
risk, right? However, there is like I people might encounter saying that okay, there is no age limit of switching domains, stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is the as per my understanding, this is the point when we can take risk and explore new opportunities. um, that's a part which I am also really excited about regarding Web3.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what was also very interesting to me was because I was sharing, I was getting like very nice feedback. So it kind of assured me, okay, like I'm doing something which is actually interesting. I'm like on the right track, because there's really no other way to measure, like understand for me, am I doing something that's interesting? Am I doing something that can add value? So like seeing that, getting like, okay, like I'm actually on something. Like that was the wake up call. Like just continue this thing.
Yeah. Right. So, like, what are some of the points that you would like to highlight that everyone should keep in mind regarding getting their first opportunity? Specifically, we talk about the Web3 space, like based on your experience.
Yeah. So you mean like what resources, or what to
Uh,
consider to moving in?
not the resources. Like, if I am a person who has started learning Web3, what are some of the points that I should keep in mind so that I can land a job, or I can get my first, say, internship or some opportunity into this domain? What points would you like to highlight?
Yeah, that's okay. Now I see. So I think like, first of all, there's just so much things going on in the Web3 space. Like it's just very huge. Like I, in the end, decided to focus on the domain, the networking side, which I was already familiar with, the wireless side. So I think to focus on one area which you find interesting and go towards there. Like you can focus on like smart contract development, or front end development, etc. But just focus on one, because it's just so huge. You can easily get like worn out, burnout. And I hear a lot of people asking me like, what about this imposter syndrome? Like, do you feel it, etc.? And yeah, like it's always, but I think it's there with everything. So
Yeah.
just, I think it's okay to make mistakes. As long as you share them, you acknowledge them, that's really okay. I
Mm.
like to move fast as well. So like just kind of build, ship, and iterate. Like you don't have to get everything perfect on the right, on the first thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the beauty of being so public is like you get to iterate based on the feedback, which I would recommend everyone to do. So if you have a doubt, if you're like, oh, okay, how do I even do this? You can just post on Twitter, reach out to somebody, like get an answer to your question instead of just trying to do it like yourself days and nights.
Right, right. And this is also a very not new, but people have got to know about it recently about Web3. So it might be possible that you might not get the answer on Google or something. So you have rightly said that reaching out to people is one of the very good option in order to grow yourself into this domain, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I agree to your point. Like, I think it was you who had mentioned like it's like a gray space, right? So like there's a lot of things which are unanswered, and that's completely okay. Like you have to be okay, like this is not exactly solved right now, or this I can't find the answer to this because there's only one person in the world which did it before. So like that's really okay. You don't have to know the answers to everything that's starting. Um, but yeah, like I think it's okay to like not know everything and be
Yeah,
confident to ask questions.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, since we are talking so much about getting into this space, so like from all the people, like I've also got a lot of queries from people on Twitter, on other social media handles as well, that um, how can we get started with it? So what resources would you recommend to people who are like, or who want to get into this space, of course apart from your blogs on Hashnode? Those are pretty
Thank you
good.
for the shout out. No, no, of course. Yeah, exactly. And I try to write about like the resources which I'm using. I share a lot of where to go and find those resources, but I can give a quick overview over here as well. So I think that Twitter is like a really great place to learn about the people and to find the content, or to find like the YouTube videos, to find like the groups to learn together with. I think like if I call out like three people, it's probably like Nader Dabit, Patrick Collins, and also Austin Griffith. Like they're like the most popular Web3 developer advocates. I actually like, I really like, Francesco shared like a list of creators, and he's actually also completed the 100 days of Web3, and has great content on like where to go, what to find as well. But he shared like a list of, I think, 30 different creators in the space, which I'd
Mm.
highly recommend. I would highly recommend your channel as well, to kind of
Thanks.
get an overview. I know that you're doing the Web3 100 days of Web3 challenge right now, but really to follow those people, and they all have like their own platforms which they create content. You can kind of get started over there. And on the developer groups, so I really use BuildSpace a lot. BuildSpace was super important for my journey because they have these weekend projects where you can actually build the project in like a weekend time, and you build it together with a group of developers as well. So you get on the Discord, you can get answers to your questions, you can post
Oh,
your, post your progress, which I think helps a lot. So definitely to check out Build Space, to check out all these creators and kind of follow whichever follow whichever suits your style best. Um, but I think the key is like to build something fast, like not
hmm.
to continue reading, but once you get, okay, like this thing is called Ethereum, this is how I create an application, just try and create one thing over there.
Yeah. Yeah, like this is a good like list of resources that you have shared, and I can also give a link of the Twitter post that you had recently put, I think, regarding the Web3 resources that you follow. So maybe people can go and watch that link as well and have a better idea of all the resources you have been following. Yeah.
Exactly. Like those were very essential for me. And there are a lot of different places which you can follow, or like a lot of different, it really depends on like what area you want to go to. Like, do you want to build with Ethereum, with Solana, or like with another, or with another side? Like, do you want to build front end applications, etc.? So to choose the content which suits your style best. And there are so many creators which you can choose to follow. Yeah, make sure to get into Build Space. I know that there are a lot of different DAOs, like these decentralized autonomous organizations, bringing like cohorts of developers inside as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, like to choose what you're interested in and to kind of give it a shot.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's a great advice. Now, coming to your role as a developer advocate. So, since you are a developer advocate at Helium Foundation, what I wanted to understand and also let the audience know is what do they actually do?
Exactly. Super. Let me talk a bit about Helium. And I actually like to add on to my previous question. I do want to kind of talk about the grants program available in this space. Um, so basically, Helium, the best way to describe Helium, I guess, would be it's a business model for deploying large wireless networks. So it started on the IoT network. It's called the LoRaWAN network. So these are basically small sensor devices, any kind of sensors, dog collars, those kind of devices, GPS trackers.
Mhm.
So it started on the network for them, and it basically kind of distributes the 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 sets of the creation of the network to the people. So like people like you and I can get a hotspot device, and together we create like this full network of people to connect their IoT devices to. So that's kind of the way I like to describe Helium. And it's more the business model. So like when you originally think about the telecom business model, it's really centralized and you're kind of dependent on the central authorities or like central
Yeah.
corporations to set it up. But this way it kind of distributes, this kind of extends the people, like the people or places which you can reach out to, and at the same time people are incentivized to set up this hotspot because
Oh,
you set up the hotspot, you provide coverage around your area, and you earn HNT tokens in return, which is like a very disruptive telecom model in my idea. I just find it super exciting, and I come from the networking world as well, so I know
yeah.
the challenges faced over there, and this is like a completely like shift of idea, shift of perspective to go with it. And yeah, that's what we like, that's what Helium does. And at the Helium Foundation, we are the foundation arm to the Helium Network. Basically, what we do is we support the community on different initiatives. So, one thing which I do want to call out is the grants program, for example. So,
Mm.
we have a grants program for builders building on the Helium network, or content creators creating content on Helium. So, we really try to like support the community in all these different initiatives. We're also supporting function through the governance process. We're basically like kind of trying to, yeah, we're basically supporting the Helium community in different ways, because it's a very large community. It's completely decentralized, so we're like the arm kind of supporting the community.
Hmm. Great, great stuff. Yeah, I think when we got to know about the company from, say, a developer advocate or who is working there, we get better idea of what they actually do rather than going to the website and understanding, okay, what is it. So yeah, that was a nice introduction of what they really do. Now we have a question from the audience. So Mayank wants to know, how is your everyday life as a DevRel in Web3, and which part do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so basically, like my everyday life is, I started full time almost like 2.5 months now. So basically, like we're um, we're responsible for all these different functions, and I think the most important is like getting people kind of spreading, like talking more about like what we do, how we can support different developers, different builders in the space, what builders can actually do, right? So like let's say you're interested in Helium, but what can you actually do? Like how can you get support from us? Like how can we kind of be the arm um, to help you out? We're really focusing on these different kind of initiatives.
Mhm.
And I also have my own blog where I kind of just write about the projects which I'm building on weekly basis, um, which is kind of like an extra tool just to kind of, yeah, I do like to focus on building like projects for fun around the different ecosystem, and I keep on sharing those on my blog as well. But basically, yeah, solving these two like focusing on these two parts. When you ask about my everyday life, it's just very different. Like having like a very large community owned project, like you get different challenges, different like tasks every day. So it really does vary, but I think, you know, the most important part is to keep on sharing your learnings, be transparent, and be
Yeah.
genuine. Like don't just post to post, or like if something is good, say that it's good. If something, you know, has an error, say that it has an error. Like don't hide stuff, because people actually go and use whatever like you're sharing, etc. So I think those are like the key things to keep out for. And yeah, just learning and publicly sharing.
So, which part do you enjoy the most? I think we are missing on to that, and I really want to know that.
Which part do I enjoy the most? That's a great question. So what I created content for myself in the start, like it's so that I can actually understand. Like my docs were just getting like very mixed up. I wasn't able to follow along. Like, okay, where do I have this information, etc. So I just created content for myself because it was easy to understand. But when I get like when that content resonates with someone, that's just super valuable for me. It's something which I hadn't done before. Like I wasn't on the educator side. I was more on the product marketing, product sales side. But I'm really enjoying like creating content which values, like which other people can benefit from. Um, so that's like really fun, and that's why I think my favorite part is really creating content. Like
Mm.
it's just so fun to like share your learnings, get feedback from others. If it's wrong, you know, call me out, please tell me like Eda, this is wrong, or like Eda, you should have done this like this, etc. But it's just really nice to share your findings, and um, yeah, I value that a lot, like building in public.
I can totally relate to that. Because yeah, that also gives you a sense of satisfaction that you are learning something, because it so happens that when you learn something and you don't really share it or write it somewhere, you tend to forget it in future, and you need to go back and search for your resources, from where did you learn, or what was that actually that you learned at that point in time. So documenting everything is one way to get started into sharing content, and then gradually, you start enjoying it, and yeah, you get opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like it's you can document it. I saw on Twitter the other day someone said like unless you can explain it, you don't really learn it. So you should be able to like explain what you're learning. And
Right.
before like starting this, you know, writing my blog or writing what I'm finding, I kind of realized like all the parts which I don't know about what I'm building. I just open a paper and like, okay, I'm going to write about this application. I try to start, but it's like all blank. So then
Yeah.
just exposes me so well to what I learned and what I don't know. So that's why I think it's really crucial.
Hmm. Absolutely. So, Eda, I know it's not been so long for you into this space of developer advocacy, but based on your 2 or 2.5 month experience, like what components like one need to focus on to get into developer advocacy? Like what are the things that you have noticed?
Yeah. Um, I think like a developer advocacy. So if you want to get a developer advocate role, or if you're like interested into moving the field, you should already be like a developer advocate. So you should be like creating content. It doesn't just have to be creating content. Like I think engaging with the community, like understanding what developers are doing, like identifying the problems over there, participating in events. They're like different arms of developer advocacy. But you should already be doing that because it you will be like a lot of independent. You will be able to create like this stuff on your own. You will have to go to like to these talks, etc. So
Mhm.
having like an already um having that presence already and having like set your style already, that just is very important. So
Mhm.
my advice is always like companies should find you when they want like a developer advocate because you already have a certain style. They can directly see your style. So every side knows each other. Like you get to choose their product, they get to choose you.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important because a developer advocate is a very public role as well, right? You need to really be confident enough, like, well, not confident, like you can, it doesn't happen like overnight, but you need to be confident to like ask questions, to like share your findings, to call out when you need to put that feedback in or to change something. So that's why I really think it's important for companies to find you. And if you're like, let's say you're interested in X company, you can start creating content about them. You can like just share what you're learning about them, build applications with their tools,
Mhm.
and then that kind of like gets you to a stage. And then someone from there will recognize, oh, like this person is creating content for me. Or you can just go, hey, like I created all these series for your product. What do you think? By the way, I know you're hiring. Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
So I think it should go that way. Like already they need to know you and you need to know, like, you need to have like a presence.
Yeah, completely agree to that too. Because like I feel that I was also reading something on Twitter, a post or something by Eddie, if I'm not wrong. So he was saying that like these days resume is not a thing. Your online
Yeah.
presence is your resume. Like whatever you are doing, share it with people, and companies will automatically come to you seeing, okay, you are satisfying all these things that they want from you, and you're already doing that, so they can simply let you in, right?
I 100% agree. I think I did read that post that I know that he's like, um, that's especially important in open source as well, right? All the
Yes.
Web3 space, I think it has the same ethos. But it's really like what you do, and like it's more important than the classes you took at university. I didn't have like the highest grades, or I didn't really like taking the classes there, but I do like
Mhm.
to like build my own stuff, kind of ship these kind of stuff. So it's not important. Like no one asked me for my resume, to be honest. Like um, I had already built the profile. Um, but yeah, to focus on like doing stuff and sharing it. That's just the only key. It doesn't really matter if you got like a 4.0 GPA,
Mhm.
which I think most the corporations look at. So it's really what you do than what you kind of graduated with or something like that.
100%. So Edda, like for if we talk about developer advocacy, so what are some of the components that developer advocacy consists of? Like, is it marketing, is it coding, is it communicating with the community, or like is it a combination of everything or any other thing as well? So can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, and that's something which I'm also trying to figure out as well. What I really like is so it's it's not just one person creating something, it's really a team kind of feeding this person with like different contents, different applications. So I think it consists of like different roles. The developer relations team, which consists of like different developer advocates that work together. um, but basically, from my experience and what really worked out for me, and this is again just my experience of like a very newbie in the space, so I could be like completely um, missing some parts to it. But at least what I like is I like to like decipher what the developers are doing to like every kind of general purpose audience. So like understand the code. Okay, like this is exactly how this works, and explain it to a person which both knows code and doesn't know how to code. So
Right.
I would say like the coding part is yes there because you're working with developers, you're working with like technical products, or having that technical side of things, not just the code part, but you need to understand how all the different technologies work together and explain that in like a simple manner for both a technical and non-technical person. You can either like make different projects with it, you can reach out to developers, you can focus on the communication side as you mentioned, identify the issues with the product, like what are the fields like developers are facing issues. You can do that outreach, or you can do like I'm going to be focused on getting people excited about this product. How can I attract more developers? I think you do have the option to go over there. um, I read, yeah, I had read a post, I think it was by Patrick, around like the different options you have for developer advocates on
Mm-hmm.
different areas you can focus on. So it's not just one, it's like whichever thing which works for you best. So in my case, it's more around creating content. But let's say you like to talk to different people about their projects, I think that also falls into that category.
Hmm. Yeah, and also I think it depends from company to company, their requirements from developer advocates, what are their expectations and all. Yeah. So we
100% agree.
again have a question related to it. I think we were talking about on the same line. So what are your thoughts on how should we figure out if a certain company is right for us to join? And I think you would be the right person to answer this question, since you were not looking out for opportunities and some company came up to you, and you would have to decide at that point in time, okay, do I really want to go to this company? So how did you decide on that?
Yeah. So for me, it's like, are you already part of the community? Do you already know what they're doing? Like, have you already like worked with their product? Have you like had interaction with that? Is it something which you're, yeah, interested in? I think that's very crucial. Like, because then you jump into a very new community which you don't know what the product is, so you don't even know if that's a match for you. So I would 100% recommend to have like hands-on with
Mhm.
whatever product or company you're interested in. So
Mhm.
you're going to be working very closely with that. So you really need to have like, you need to know what it is, the features of it, how you can do something with that. And I think also what you're kind of interested in doing, like, are you looking for talking at conferences? Are you looking for creating content to understand like what's also interesting for you? And when those two match, then I would say like, okay, like this is the company which I've already part of the community. I already know, I've already been involved, and they're looking for someone like me who wants to create
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, that's also a very good advice, because it's like we reach to a point when we are open to job roles, but it's very crucial to decide which is the company that you really want to work with, and you should also know what are the things that you should look into that company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that thanks for answering that question. Now there is a question, and that like I've reached to that question based on one of your tweets. So there was a tweet that you had put few days back, that getting more invites to talk about being a woman in Web3 than Web3. So since we have already talked so much about Web3, now I think I'm in a better position to ask this question. So,
Yeah.
how has your experience being a woman in Web3 space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I put that tweet out the other day, just like came to my mind. Um, so I'm not new to tech. I've been in the tech world for the past like 5 years and also studied software engineering, which was like male, more male people inside the classroom, etc. So
Mhm.
it's not like a tech is not like in a new domain for me. Um, but what really works for me is I don't want to talk specific to Web3 because I'm also very new in the space.
Yeah.
I think like having less women, you kind of get that. Like let's have a space to host women, which is pretty cool. But I think not just having a space to host women, but like to proactively like try and build more diverse teams. I think that's very important. Something we need to focus on. But if you ask my advice, like I'm super happy to be in tech, and I would not at all like see myself in any other part, or even like I'm also very happy that I joined the Web3. So I think that it's been like a super great match. And what works for me is having like the different mentors that I have. They're like both men and women who kind
Mhm.
of support me, who believe in what I do, and who are like encouraging me to move forward. I think it works out to be like optimistic and uh, yeah, just that's kind of the case right now. Like it's more, it's not as diverse as a space it is, but to be aware and proactively try to fix that and not just have like women-led projects to have women-led projects, but actually because we need them in this space because we're creating something for everybody to benefit from. So not just for the sake of having, but like actually um, proactively trying to support different people inside. I think that's important.
Yeah, and a very good thing that I have observed, particularly regarding this Web3 spaces, like usually on my Twitter, I do get to see not just the men posting stuff about Web3, like it's a combination. Like women are equally excited about this space. So that's what I really love about it. It's like there is no bias of any sort, which we usually see. Like not really now, but in the past, we used to see a lot of gender bias. But now I'm so happy that there are some DAOs wherein women are a core part of those DAOs and all, and it's really good to see. Okay, everyone is building on Web3. There is no particular gender.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like it's a lot of anonymous people as well. Like I interact with people who I don't know the name. Like they have like a different profile picture. It doesn't even have like a regular name, which is completely okay. Like you can be anonymous. Like it doesn't matter who you are really. You can be completely like I don't know, I can't think of like an anonymous name right now, but you can have your name as Superman, and like you can just have like an avatar of Superman and be as much into the space as you have it as yourself and your name. So it doesn't really matter where you come from, what you're doing. It's just more the value you're adding there. And to your point, like there's so many women in the space as well, which I think is really cool. But yeah, like I very um, I really would like to see like more diversity in the space.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Eda, this brings me to the last question of this podcast, wherein I want you to give some last tip for those who want to get into Web3 or maybe developer advocacy in Web3. What would
For
you
sure.
recommend? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So even just before going to that, I kind of do want to talk about the opportunities in the space, which I think really ties to the question as well. Um, so what I'm seeing in the Web3 space is that there's just a lot of opportunities where you can either continue like your education, your regular work, and start to get into the Web3 space. Like as per myself, like I didn't directly move to the space. I was first observing, like trying to create something. But now that I'm more into the space, I can see that while you're doing that, you can also earn some kind of income through a lot of grants and bounty programs. I would definitely suggest to like check out those grants programs, the bounties, and also the hackathons where you can
Mm.
get an idea of what's happening. You can earn money for like participating, for creating like these interesting tools and stuff. And at the same time, you get to learn what it is before like jumping right into it and being like, okay, I'm just suddenly a move to Web3, like leaving my job, going there. Instead of that, I would definitely recommend to check out the grants program. Most projects which you're interested in, you can just write their name and search grants program. They will probably have something. So I know that we have a lot of grants program in our I see a lot of grants program on Twitter as well. But we as well, like as the Helium Foundation, we have our grants program for everyone building or creating content on the Helium network. So if you're interested, please do feel free to reach out to me. My DMs are open. And yeah, like I think it's a good way to get into it, to understand what the space is about, joining hackathons, having the chance to like earn some income as well before moving full time. So I would suggest like first understand like what's going on, what this is all about, and then say, oh, okay, like this is actually something which I want to do, and gear your career towards there.
Yeah, and we all know that it's a rabbit hole. So choose your
Yeah.
domains wisely, and where once people get into it, they might get lost into the space thinking what should they do, what should they not do. So yeah, as we have previously discussed also in this podcast, that following people who are already into the space gives you a better picture of what the whole domain looks like and what are the part that in which you can work in.
Yeah. And there are a lot more content than I first started in, I think it was like September time. Now you have like a lot more beginner content, a lot more creators like creating like from scratch or like sharing their journeys as we go along.
Mhm.
So you could definitely like you have all the resources over there just to be interested and say, okay, like I'm gonna try this, see how it goes. Yeah, that would be kind of my advice. Just like and I think it's important because I was like completely no crypto person. No, 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 I'm staying away. This crypto thing, I don't like this. But then when I actually started to research it more and like get to understanding what it actually is and like what you can build there, that was what really made me, oh, why am I like super negative towards the space? Like, don't have those negative bias. You will have to like relearn a lot of stuff. You have to like
Mhm.
forget what you learned and be like, okay, like this is I'm gonna completely erase what I know and like start from scratch because it's completely different. You have to
Yeah.
be ready for that, but just try it out, like give it a shot. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue. But I obviously do, and hence I ended up in this space. But yeah, like that would be my advice. Just don't get into like the negative bias and follow the builders, like not the speculation side.
Absolutely. And the main reason why I contacted you in the first place was because like when we got in touch on the call, I really got excited knowing that okay, Eda is someone who has completely changed her domain and got into Web3, and people are like who want to switch domains, they initially are very afraid. So I think after knowing your story, how you proceeded, how you learned things would help and give like have given a lot of insights to the audience. So I'm quite sure that whoever is watching this video right now or whoever will watch this video in the future, they are going to benefit a lot from this conversation. So yeah, so thank you so much, Eda, for taking out time and recording this podcast with me. It was super nice. I really enjoyed it.
It was super fun. Thank you so much for the invite. And again, like I definitely agree with your point. I had no idea what Web3 was until I somehow find myself in the Web3 space. So I would just recognize like suggest to like give it a shot. It's very new. Like people keep telling me it was new. I would not believe them that it was new because I felt like I was very, I was very late. But now I'm completely realizing that it's still very new. There's just so many opportunities that yeah, like you can you can find yourself like very deep down the rabbit hole in Web3.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Eda, and thank you everyone who are watching this video right now. And see you in the next podcast. Bye bye, Eda.
Thank you. Bye everyone.